coming up.
And the myth is so rich with examples of the different knights and ladies. They are just all personifications, characters who display all the possible problems that we can have in our time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lancelot has the loyalty problem, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Percival is a pure example of how to go through life with coming from innocence and just having to fall and stand up again, you know, the trial and error way.
Mm-hmm.
And even Merlin or Morgana have their own lessons to learn on their own quest. So even the wise ones or the king and the queen, they all have their quest. And that makes it very interesting.
Hello, Synchronauts, and welcome to another roundtable session with my dear teacher and friend, Mike Bais from Circle of Avalon. My name is Aida from Mexxicamelot, and today we're going to be talking about a very, very interesting topic, which is the round table. We're beginning to speak about actually what brought us here, this holy and sacred space. How are you, Mike?
Very good, thank you again, and a pleasure to do another recording for everyone together with you.
Thank you. I'm so happy too, because this is a very interesting topic, obviously, and it was actually it was actually our inspiration to come together, sit down and talk about all of these different topics related to Kabbalah, and also obviously about the myths of the round table, and obviously as well connected to the path of Jesus Christ as the Christic being and all of his teachings, not precisely only the religious vision or version that we all have, which is very different if you go from one place to another. Even within the same so-called religious group, it can change the view and the way they portray Jesus and his teachings, but it's all connected into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the round table, because many people, obviously, just as myself, and we were talking a little bit before doing the recording, how many of us, we know about the round table because of the myths of the Arthurian, King Arthur and Camelot, but maybe many of us have never wondered, like, why does the round table exist, no? And what is this business about the Grail? We know the stories, but have you ever wondered? I have never actually sat down and wondered, like, okay, wait a second, what is the Grail? Now, what does it really symbolize? And what is the importance of this alliance, so to speak, between the Grail and the round table? And I was very surprised to discover that obviously there is not just one round table, there are three. We will be talking about them during this video, or more to come, because it's a very, very big topic. But
it is.
I was thinking maybe for our listeners and even for myself, like, let's begin in the beginning, like, what is the Grail and how does it connect to a round table, or the round table be the one from Arthur or the other ones that you're going to be talking to us about?
Yeah, it's well, we said this before, the whole narrative, the whole story is massive, because there's so many different stories being written over quite a long time, not just during the Crusades in Europe and of course the Middle East, but also before that and after that. So there are different sources and therefore also different versions of the same story. But that's always important to emphasize. So the round table doesn't appear equally in every story. I mean, the table is round, that's obvious. It doesn't become rectangular in another version. But I think the most known story, which is probably you will see and read about in most of the sources, is that it is a dowry or a gift from the bride of King Arthur, and it's taken by the so-called queen or the White Lady Guinevere. She came from an unknown land, although in some sources it is said, well, she came from Cornwall, So that's a real district, of course, a province in the UK. But for others, it was like an other world or a fairyland. So the dowry, the round table, was of an otherworldly origin and magical in its substance. Now there are different relationships between what that means and the stories as they have evolved. For example, it was also called the Table of Stars. And most of the time, the sections on the table are divided in 12. They correspond to a lot of 12 related wisdom teachings, like the 12 zodiacal signs or the 12 tribes of Israel in the Christian and Jewish tradition, etc. So these are 12 types or divisions of modes of consciousness, of wisdom. So, and there's so much to say about what that means. And for example, the Kabbalist, or the one who is also occupied with Kabbalah, they could say, well, all of the wisdom within the table, it can be found on the Tree of Life as well. Okay. So with the round table coming into the kingdom of Camelot, which was until then not really a kingdom. It was a gathering of, well, someone, just a very young knight who just became king, Arthur, and some of his followers, but it was not really a kingdom. So only with the marriage to this lady, Guinevere, and this special object, it could become a kingdom, even a very special kingdom.
Oh, okay. So the kingdom came to be because of this union between Arthur and Guinevere, but also because of the gift that she brings to Camelot. Wow, that is very interesting. Because this is talking not only about, okay, the king is the authority, the male authority, but you need also the female to come together and then make this foundation for this new kingdom.
Very much. Yeah, in the Celtic tradition, this is called sovereignty. So the king has to marry the land, align itself to the land, and also to the wisdom of the land to come to a true kingdom. So the queen is the representative of the land, and not just the physical substance, but also the what the land represents. It is the manifestation of spirit. So all the wisdom is here on this planet, on the earth. Wow. That's a very old pagan Celtic way of looking at it.
Yes.
So, and the king is the one who wishes to align to the land, to nature, to the queen. Only then can he establish a kingdom.
Wow. Yeah. I find it very interesting because one of the reasons, at least for me, why the Arthurian myths are so appealing is because of the connection with nature, this magic, which is very pagan, but at the same time, we see a connection which is, for me at least, it was very unexpected, no, this connection with Kabbalah. And you say, wait a minute, we're talking about Judaism, and Christianity comes from it, and it's very male-oriented and very disconnected from nature at times. In terms of Christianity, I cannot say about Judaism, but Christianity, as I've lived it, I was born and raised a Catholic here in Mexico, so I know what I'm talking about. It's very male-oriented. It's very materialistic, very disconnected from nature, opposite to, for example, the cultures that used to live here in Mesoamerica that were very connected to the nature. So it's diametrally opposed. And then to think that this table that represents these Kabbalistic principles, and it's also representing many so-called pagan principles, I think that at the end, we're talking about creation. These are just two different points of view that talk about creation and our place in the universe. I don't know if I'm right there, or am I hallucinating?
No, I think very much. I mean, you're highlighting an important point, which is in the metaphysical background of it all. So these are just another set of principles, spiritual principles, that are translated in the Grail myth through a queen and a king, and a land and a kingdom. But you know, in the mystic Judaic system of the Kabbalah, it's exactly the same thing. If you read the old text of the Zohar, there is a king, you know, the Malek, and there's also a Malka, or a queen. And the king is in Tiferet, and the queen is in Malchut, or the kingdom, the physical universe. And they talk about the marriage. And of course, this is a mystical marriage. It has to conclude within you and, you know, every human being. You see behind me this tree of life with circles, and you can say, well, you know, on both sides, there's the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine, and they have to be reunited to come to a state of alignment or sovereignty between the one and the other. So this is all to do not with outward external processes, but this is all very alchemical, you could say, and mystical. And that's the same with the Arthurian story.
We have to work it within us. Like, these are archetypes and stories that we also carry within us. It doesn't matter what our cultural or country background is.
Very much.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, if you don't, it's not a problem. But then the Arthurian romances are, you know, very nice stories. You know, there are legends, and it doesn't devalue them in any way. But if you want to look at them esoterically, then all the metaphysics are there. That's the beauty of it as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. And why was this table so important? Why was it made? Who made it? I mean, we're talking about the one in Camelot, obviously, right now, no?
Yeah.
And actually, this is the last table. This is not the first table. This is the last one. But what was the purpose? Who made it? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, well, the mystery behind it is that probably Merlin made the table. So it's coming again from another origin, whether this be Avalon, you know, but at least it's coming from a spiritual dimension to teach something to humanity. Okay. And from the Kabbalistic perspective, but also within the myth, it would be said that the table came to teach how to become human. Okay. Because before that, humans were generalized, you know, behaving like animals, sometimes sophisticated animals. And this is still going on in the world we are living in these times, with all due respect, I'm saying this. But, and in the myth and in Kabbalah, they say the true level of the human being is the soul. And this is the level of self-consciousness and of higher values, or the awakening of your conscience, and based upon metaphysical principles. So, for example, those principles are love, forgiveness, righteousness, you know, and the application of it as well. So the round table was, first of all, round because a circle is completeness. So that was the first symbol of the kingdom. It has to be and become a complete kingdom. And of course, of equality. So all the knights and ladies, the companions that were sitting there, were all equal. They all had their place, even if they do not agree, or they're opposed to each other in some way, or there's a dispute, but still there's this equality. And everyone had its own section, you know, one of the 12 sections on the table. So everyone is equal in that sense. And it doesn't matter at the table what your social background is, how much money you earn, you know, what skin color you have, what language you speak. At that table, you return back to our true essence of what it is to be human. So that's why you can also say this is a soul group, because the essence of the gathering is about the soul, which is human. That's the true humanity. And it's not about the, outer appearance and the layers that are on top of that. So that's I think one of the main things that is what the table is representing. Now the table is in a horizontal position. It means it has an active horizontal relationship with the world.
Okay, and what does that mean?
It means that we directly from the table, we participate in life. So the quest is in and through life. It's not, it's not away from this world, but it is engaging and participating through life. And this is exactly the same for the Kabbalist. It's affirmative to life. To find your grail, whatever that is, we're going to talk about it maybe. You are going through life. It is your daily quest, my daily quest, and that's the way. That's what I mean with horizontal. You see,
it's very interesting because I mean, obviously, my point of reference is Catholicism, no, and it's part of Judeo-Christianity. And what you're saying, it's so different because what they teach. I'm going to talk about my experience. So please, I hope that nobody will get like a bit upset about what this is my experience. I'm not going to say that this is like that for everybody.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, what you're going to say.
Maybe they, sacrilege, maybe, no? But that's why I'm saying this is my experience. The way that what they taught me, it was in church, you have to suffer and you have to earn your place in paradise. And this life is not important. So what you're saying right now related to the table is, again, completely opposite from what is being taught in these traditions that stem originally from Judaism and have a connection with everything you're talking about. And for me, this is like, wow, this is very interesting to say. You have to live your life, affirm yourself through your life. The other life that is awaiting spirit-wise, it's not that it's not important, but we have completely demonized, in a way, being in the flesh and having a human experience and even connecting to this animal side, which we all do at some point, some more than others. It's still a part of our nature when you are incarnated. But the fact that you can come to the table, you don't have to belong to a lineage. You don't have to be the son or the daughter to participate. As long as you feel the call, then you can come and then you can make your life sacred through this quest. Is that correct? Or am I?
No, very correct. I rest my case. No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, according to Kabbalah, but also, the Celtic pagan, if you want to call it that way, tradition, there's nothing new under the sun. The God became immanent in creation. So God is within everything as an immanence or an intrinsic reality here and now. So not a division between heaven and earth, which may cause certain spiritual and psychological problems.
Very big, of course.
But that's not what we are talking about here. And even, of course, the Christian mystics didn't talk about that. There was no division between, this manifestation and where the manifestation came from in the first place. Now, the round table, again, speaks about the same mystical reality. And that is when at a certain moment, when everyone was gathering at the round table, mind you, that's a soul gathering. And the soul also in Kabbalah speaks about one of the properties of the soul is to be receptive, to be open to the wonder, because somehow the soul realizes that the mystery is very close, it's very nearby, but we can't see it or, perceive it. And then in the story, what happens is that something starts to shine above the table. and it gradually descends and just rests there in the center of the table. And it is an object which is veiled somehow, but even through the veil, it is like mesmerizing, and people are in awe to see it. And then for a moment they behold the thing without the veil, and what they see is a grail. And of course it's a cup or a chalice. So I have a replica here just to have an idea. This is like, oh,
there it is. Wow.
there it is. Yeah. So the symbol is quite important because the grail is a vessel. It's not a sword, it's not a candle, but it's a chalice. So the implications are also quite metaphysical. And so this idea returns over and over again in a lot of traditions, or it comes through the veiled goddess called Isis, or the veiled Madonna. And it's always female, but there are these presences within a lot of different traditions who can't be seen directly because they represent the immanence or the presence of God here within or on the earth. So the Grail is just another symbol for what we are talking about here. In Kabbalah, they talk about that in the sense of the Shekhinah, which is also a feminine appearance, and she is the presence of God on earth, and she is veiled. So we can't behold her directly. So I hope you and all the listeners are catching a little bit what I'm trying to, bring across. But God presents itself through forms that we can probably understand.
Of course.
Because in its naked fullness, its complete appearance, we cannot fathom it, we cannot know it in that sense.
Yes, it's such a high vibration that it could even destroy us because we're so dense, and that is such a light energy that it could obliterate us. So God has to find ways to manifest itself through symbols that we, as you say, we can understand that will not attack us or make us disappear. No, that's something that we can interact with and that appeals to us as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sometimes the greatest devils in our minds are experiences of God who is misunderstood. So this is why symbols are so important, or metaphors, stories, or the arts even. Yeah. And these stories, what we are talking about, they refer to all kinds of realities which are otherwise not understood because they have no form. We can't see them directly in this world. So we need these symbolic stories.
Wow. So this story, because obviously people, if you hear about the Arthuriad, you know that the Grail refers to the Holy Grail that Jesus used in the Last Supper. But now I am wondering, are there any other, because you were talking about, for example, Isis, no? Like she's also it's the same symbol, but in a different face, so to speak. Has the symbol of the Grail as such appeared in other mythologies before Christ?
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah, as a vessel. I mean, cups and chalices or cauldrons have been everywhere.
Okay, now that you say cauldron, like, of course.
Yeah, and again, in the Celtic world, very pre-Christian as well, you had cauldrons in different stories coming from Wales or Scotland or Ireland. Very old stories. The same old thing. And, except from bringing a manifestation of spirit and a feminine quality to it, receptive quality. It also had certain other magical properties. Most of the time, it had the ability to heal or regenerate. So the cauldron in Welsh mythology, you could throw in dead people and they would regenerate and they would live again.
Wow.
So the interesting thing is that everything functioned, but the only thing that was missing was the soul. And that's a very interesting little detail there in the story, because what it says is everything is born within the world, but the soul is created. It's not born, you see. So we can make everything also now in this age. In a laboratory, we can clone a mouse or a cow and probably even a human being, but the soul cannot be made. So the essence is not born, it is created, and it, as it were, it transports itself in this vehicle that we have been given at birth.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's a symbol also for the Grail again. It's a vessel, but it doesn't belong to the world.
Okay.
It's here temperate. The Shekhinah, or the presence of God, is in the world, but it's not of the world.
No, just like Jesus said that he was like that as well, no? I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
now let's go back to the origins in terms of this particular story that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So where did Jesus get his grail from? And what about the table where he was with the apostles? Was it also round? Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
No, it was not round, as far as we know. I mean, it's never depicted as such, so we don't know. And the whole idea about a cup or a chalice or goblet in the story of Christ at the Last Supper is like a very minimized detail. He never talks about a cup at all, let alone a Holy Grail. So it's not within the teachings of Christ at all. It's later adopted, more or less, after the crucifixion. So there we have two vessels of Mary Magdalene, or sometimes referred to Joseph of Arimathea, where the blood and the water coming from the wounds of Christ are being poured into. But again, these are not referred to later as the Holy Vessel or the Holy Grail. So how did the Holy Grail come into the story? And this is through mainly one of the authors of, during the times of the Crusades in France, you had Chrétien de Troyes. If people are interested in reading the classics, then this poet and writer did write about it, because he got all these stories from the people returning from the Holy Land. So these stories were adopted semi-historically and semi-legendary or mythically, and it became a part of the stories of the Round Table. But before that, there was no cup at all. Then you had mainly Celtic related objects. So the holy object was like a platter or a disc or a spear, even in the stories of Gawain. Or in the Welsh stories, it was a bit morbid, but it was a head.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Well, on a plate, actually.
Yeah, I think I've seen, and now that I think about it, there are many paintings. I don't know if it's precisely the head of John the Baptist, but there are many paintings with this head on a platter. And now it's making sense to me. What you're saying is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, what's sacred and holy for one culture is maybe something completely different for another. So there, the head was sacred because it was the symbol of prophecy and vision. So that comes all from Chrétien de Troyes, and his successor, more or less, is called Robert de Boron, and he was very much into the Holy Grail symbology. But of course, Jesus didn't know anything about these things at all. In his time, he didn't know about a round table. But nevertheless, he demonstrated the way back to the God within, or the Shekhinah, through a simple ritual. And that was later cross-fertilized through these stories with the round table. So the Christian or Christianized world became a part of the round table mythology. Okay. And so it's good to know for everyone listening and viewing that you have a choice. If you say, I want to adopt all these different stories and all the influences, then this is one of them. If you're not too interested in the Christianized forms, then you can keep to the old stories, the Welsh stories, for example.
Pagan ones, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But it becomes very interesting if you are willing and open to look at it all, because they complement each other very much.
That's what I was going to say. They are very similar. And yes, they complement each other. And the more that I'm studying Kabbalah and studying under your wing, I'm understanding that it's just that reality or creation it's so vast, it's so big that there are many different points of view and on how you can approach reality. So obviously, it's not that one goes against the other, or this is the truth and this is not the truth. It's more like these are different points of view about the same thing or the same phenomenon. So for me, it is very enriching and it brings me peace because I love the pagan part. No, right now, for example, we're very close to a very big pagan festivity, which is Samhain. Or as we celebrate it in Mexico, the Day of the Dead. And I love the Day of the Dead because I can bring out my pagan side with no problem, no? Because it's normal, no? Like, I can put my altar for the Day of the Dead. The pagan side appeals so much to me. But also, because of my upbringing, this Judeo-Christian tradition also has very beautiful pearls of wisdom. And so if you see that you can explore both, and it's not like one is wrong and the other is right, or this is valid and this is it's like go and explore and you will see that they have so many things in common. It's incredible. It's like it expands your point of view and it helps you in understanding, I think, your place in creation or your place in life. No,
very much. And again, they can complement and enrich each other. Sometimes they just say the same thing through a different symbol, but even then it can have value because sometimes we don't understand something through one way or through going through one door, but we can get the message through another symbol. Exactly. So the Grail is the embodiment, the phenomenon of spirit. And that's just a general thing. It means, the essence of God, the transcendent. So the God beyond existence. Okay. So, but this is God who wishes to be known and is eventually present within everything. So the Shekhinah is in you and me. The Grail is within you and me, and in everyone and in everything in existence. It couldn't be otherwise, because otherwise you wouldn't exist.
Okay, yes, because if there is no vessel to receive spirit, then how will you manifest?
The irony of the quest, therefore, is that we are going in pursuit of something which is already there within us. So we are going to look for something, we're going to seek deeply. Most for us, it's a lifetime operation, to look for the most intimate thing, which is already there. But for most of us, there is no other way. We have to go out, we have to journey and to quest to unveil ourselves, to uncover ourselves, to see what is in there. And that we have to depart from a certain point, like the round table, and then we come back to the beginning. And then you say, oh my God, it seems I didn't have to go anywhere, but you had to go.
Yes, or
yeah.
If not, you wouldn't have had the experience to discern that it was there all along. Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. So the Grail is, in that sense, at that moment of the round table. And of course, that's a symbol. It's a symbol for everyone who is willing to go on the quest. He or she is sitting at the round table, maybe at this very moment, as a metaphor. And as soon as we open up, the Grail appears, you get a little glimpse of what you're looking for. And then, well, the game is on, so to speak. And we are challenged by her, by the goddess, or by the Shekhinah, by the Grail, to follow her. Now, subjectively, the Grail is not always the same for everyone. So maybe on your quest, you're looking for the highest possible expression of spirit. Maybe it's love, or maybe it's forgiveness. So that makes the quest quite subjective. We're all looking for the same thing, which is spirit. But the quest may be for all of us a little bit different, because it's also a personal, subjective journey, you see?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have different experiences. I'm sorry, we have different experiences, different backgrounds, and our spirits or our souls come and want to explore different adventures. So obviously that's why our personal Grail would be different from one another. Now imagine if we were already, we have this big mess, no, humankind, and then you say you have the same Grail for everybody. I know it would be like madness. So it's good that we all have a different
exactly
quest go on to. Yeah.
And the myth is so rich with examples of the different knights and ladies. They are just all personifications, characters who display all the possible problems that we can have in our time. Lancelot has the loyalty problem, for example. Percival is a pure example of how to go through life with coming from innocence and just having to fall and stand up again, the trial and error way. And even Merlin or Morgana have their own lessons to learn on their own quest. So even the wise ones or the king and the queen, they all have their quest. And that makes it very interesting. So there's always an example there at the round table within the stories that you can relate to and say, oh, wow, this is important for me at this moment in my life, because I see, like in a mirror, what I need to do at this very moment.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, this is very interesting. And I think this first conversation we're having about the round table is giving us a little bit of a preview, because as we were saying at the beginning, there are 3 different tables, no? And so right now we're just talking about the mere foundation. So maybe next time we will continue talking about the first one. Is that correct?
Very much, yeah. I can just say a little thing, is that it seems to be that there are like 3 different tables, like 3 different objects. But it could be good to say to everyone that there's only one table, but there are 3 levels of consciousness, or 3 levels of operation. And that makes it very interesting, because then everyone is sitting at the same table, but not everyone is at the same level of consciousness. So from what table or what level are you functioning at that moment? But that will be for another time, indeed. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. And how it starts developing, no? Or showing itself, like all of these different phases or parts, no? It's not shown in one same story. It's like it starts developing precisely from this moment when Jesus is sitting with his apostles and he's having the sacred moment with them.
Exactly.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. So if anybody has any questions, you can leave your messages here on YouTube. And Mike, can you remind us how people can get in touch with you, please, if they have any questions?
Of course. Well, you can email me by mailing to the email address mikebais@rocketmail.com. You can also see it on my website, which is circleofavalon.nl, and my Facebook page, which is just Mike Bais or Circle of Avalon. You can find all the details there. But I prefer to do the communication through email. So if you send me something, please leave it there. Yeah.
Excellent. Wonderful. Or if you want, you can leave a comment here on YouTube. So remember to like, subscribe, and share. And we will be back to continue this conversation from the roundtable. So I want to thank you so much, Mike, for this. This has been an amazing roundtable. There is so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's endless. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun still. So people keep coming back and check out what we're going to be sharing, because it's really, really interesting what we will be talking about. There's everything. We're going to be talking about Kabbalah. We're going to be continuing talking about the Arthurian and many, many more things. And also, if you have any questions regarding other topics, you can very much come and give us a little message, send us a little message, and we will be answering any questions if you have them. So thank you so much, dear Mike. Thank you, Synchronauts. So we will see each other very soon. In the meantime, take care and start pondering, what is my quest? Where is my grail? So that then you can come with us together and sit in the round table and keep on exploring these amazing topics. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Bye everyone.